Hi. I think that this might be the way that I can record a podcast. On Wednesdays, oh my gosh, it could be called On Wednesdays. How cute. On Wednesdays, my husband is at work. He works for our church, which is about 45 minutes away from where we live. And then obviously my kids are at school, but that's going to change. So I don't know, maybe I'll have to rethink this. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Nikki. I go by the handle on Instagram as Nikki with 1K, because that's how you spell my name. And I just like to differentiate that I'm not like other Nikkis, okay? I am a mom of 5 kids. They're all mine. They're all from my previous marriage. Yes, I was married before, and it was not great. We'll get into that in a minute. But I just wanted to tell you more about what this is and why I'm even talking to a camera with like literally no one in front of me, but hoping that this transcends beyond just this phone in front of me. I have a lot of lived experiences. I have grown up mostly with my dad, who died last February. I lived with him until I was 16 years old. I didn't really have my mom physically present in my life, though she was there very much for me over the phone. But, that really changed my perception and my understanding of my role as a wife and a mom. And I think I want to explore this topic more specifically. There's a lot of other things that I'm sure I will talk about in this, but I most recently have become very aware of how not having a mom present in my life and a female figure present in my life, how that has really changed me and sort of left me without knowledge and without understanding on how to be a wife and how to be a mom, but more importantly, how to influence my husband, how to influence my children. I feel like I have just stumbled upon this mantle, if you will, to really grasp how important, how necessary it is that families have a wife and a mom. And parenthetically speaking, equally so to have a husband and a father. And so I just want to share my thoughts with you. I want to share the things that I've learned and share really the journey that I've been on since I was a kid. So there's a lot to cover. But I guess I'll just kind of jump in with maybe a little bit more of my story. So like I said, I grew up with mostly my dad until I was 16 years old. Background to that, and you got to bear with me, I only know so much about my childhood. My mom had, she had myself, obviously, and then with another marriage, she had my sister Lori, my sister Kelly, and my brother Jeremiah. Okay, that's on them, and I'm the baby of them all. And then on my dad's side, he was married to someone, and obviously not my mom, and he had my brother Jeremy. Jeremy is 30 years older than me, or 20 years older than me. I think he's 20 years older than me. How am I? I'm 35. Yeah, he's 20 years older than me. And so in total, there's 5 of us, right? Jeremy, Jeremiah, Lori, Kelly, and then me. But we're all half related. And then obviously the 3 over here are not related to Jeremy. So I grew up mostly as a like single kid, right? Like as an only child, but I still had siblings. When I was little, and I mean little, like infant to toddler years, I was around them. I don't remember them very much. There are very specific, brief memories that I have growing up with my siblings, but for the most part, I don't really remember that. I also have pretty much no memory of seeing my mom and my dad together. They were never married, and I can't get the story straight between the two of them. My dad, told me that he had proposed to my mom. I remember stumbling upon a picture, like, those movie marquees where they, the like white background, and then you put like the movie title in the black letters. He may or may not have been the person to write it up there, but it said, "Yvonne, will you marry me?" So I can only assume that it was him, but it very well could have been somebody else. So I had that picture. It went along with my dad's story that he proposed to her. But my mom said that he didn't propose to her. And, it's just really interesting. There's also a lot to the relationship aspect between my dad and my mom's other kids. I want to be sensitive to that, but there was a lot of stories that just didn't line up. And it left me feeling super confused. Not only who to believe, but who I could trust, because, I mean, as in every story, there's always two sides of the story. And even further, there's always, well, that's how you saw that happen, but this is how I saw it. So the apple is red, but maybe you didn't see that on this side of the apple there was some green, and on this side of the apple there was a bruise, So it's like really difficult to decipher and understand what actually happened, because there is a bias, and because there is pain, and because there is, just unresolved hurt. And so I grew up with, like I said, with my dad. Now the story is that, and I want to be sensitive to this, but it's my story, so I'm going to tell it. The story was that my dad had been physically abusive to my mom's other kids. And so she said that she had to make the choice of protecting her other kids from him, and giving me up to him so that she could protect them, or keeping me but enduring physical abuse from my dad if I stayed. And so she told me that she knew that he wouldn't hurt me, so she gave me to him. Very interesting story. I don't know if I made up this memory or not, but I think I do recall being in the back of a car and looking out the back window as the car drove away, and seeing my mom outside, like, waving me goodbye. If that's real, like, if that's a memory I didn't make up, it's so sad. And my heart hurts for that little girl, because that's devastating. Sorry. I feel bad for that little girl. And I wish I knew reality back then, but I don't. All I know is what I know now. And so let's fast forward, because I want to bring you along to today and the experiences that I've had, and maybe what you can get from the experiences that I've had, because it's so in my heart that the experiences and the challenges and the pain, my goal is that it's not wasted, that I'm emptying myself to serve others and to really give hope and knowledge, and like the hindsight 2020 thing. I want to be able to pass that on. So I want to get through this. So let's move on. I grew up, like I tell people all the time, I grew up in a pool hall, and I really truly did. My dad and my mom were actually champions in pool, like shooting pool in Minnesota and North Dakota. And I just remember wherever we lived, I moved a lot of different places. I was born in North Dakota. I moved, sorry, my background got a little dark. You're in front of my actual work computer right now. So anyways, I was born in North Dakota. There was a flood in 1997, which made my dad and I evacuate from North Dakota to Minnesota temporarily. Then we moved to Chicago, and then we moved to Kansas and to Michigan. And then finally, we moved to Minnesota, where he lived until he passed away. And we'll get into that. Don't you worry. That's gonna take a whole episode or two. So anyways, so we moved around a lot of places, and where was I going with that? Oh yeah, wherever I was, we were in a pool hall. And, now while that was fun at times, and while I did get really good at pool and I almost pursued it as a career, it's really no place for a little girl to grow up, and be honest with you. Because the environment, especially at that time, smoking was still allowed inside buildings, and there was definitely a lot of drinking and a lot of older male energy and a lot of sexual energy. And so, unfortunately, I was exposed to things that really a little girl shouldn't be exposed to. So that's unfortunate. Anyways, so I moved several times. Like I said, I had to get used to the process of making friends and then saying bye, and then making friends and saying bye. And so it was a lot. It was a lot for a little girl to handle. And I think it would only make sense. I'm sorry, I'm trying not to cry. This is really sad for me, but I think it's really cathartic for me to like express it and talk about it. So I think it would make sense that I blocked out a lot of things and disassociated from a lot of things because it was just too much to take, We moved a lot because my dad, for 3 of the moves, he worked for Brookstone. I don't know if you know that store. It's like the Sharper Image, but he moved a lot. And so, so what happened? So he was like flipping stores in certain locations, and this is at least what he told me. I don't know. But that he did so well in flipping those locations that they wanted to move him to another location so he could repeat the process and flip stores. And so, and I mean like stores that were in the red, they were about to close, and then he came and he was able to shift some things in their businesses and in probably their personnel and bring about positive change. So, my dog Lucy just came under my desk. Okay. So I really got used to consistent change. Perhaps I might have translated that to nothing in life is stable, which not always a negative thing to come to that grasp because it's true. I mean, however it comes about doesn't necessarily change the fact that life is full of inconsistencies and change. Life is full of constantly having to readjust and pivot and, reorder your process and reorder your priorities. So I do believe that constant change of environment and having to get to know people, not only did that make me really social and confident with people, and I hope a good communicator, it made me very resilient and it made me very tenacious, unfortunately. I don't give up very easily. And I think it's just given me a lot of grit, really. So, I was 16 years old. I'm not going to make this super long-winded, but basically what happened, and I can tell you the whole story in another time, but I basically had went to go visit my mom. I was living in Minnesota at the time. I went to go visit my mom in Florida for summer vacation, and My mom dropped me off at the airport, and I didn't get on the plane. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, I didn't get on the plane. Like, my body, I just couldn't move. I was just like frozen to the seat. And I heard the last call, and I heard the like final call, and they even called out my name. And it was so strange because it was as if I was in a slow motion movie, sort of watching myself sit in the seat and not respond to reality. I was just sort of sitting there, and life was sort of moving around me and passing me by, and I was just sitting there. But I was sitting there and I felt peace, and I felt God holding me. Up until that point, I knew God, and I would probably tell you I believed in God. I definitely didn't have like a personal relationship with Jesus. A few days before that, actually, I had been admitted. I was Baker acted in Florida. I wasn't suicidal, but I did have a lot of just had really hard times. It wasn't anything like I wanted to end my life or anything like that. It was more just I had a lot of pain inside, and I was trying to get it out. I was looking for attention. I wanted help. I told my mom to Baker act me, so she did. I wanted somebody to be able to help me get all of that sadness out of my heart and be able to process it out loud. You know what I mean? Anyways, so so I didn't go home. And that was very hard because I didn't hear from my dad for like 3 months. And I called him, but he couldn't talk to me. And it was so sad because looking back now, I know that like my dad loved me so very much, and he tried so very hard to provide a good life for me. And I think there's just things that were outside of his control that I needed my mother for. And for whatever reason, which I think I understand, it was just that it was too emotional for him to talk to me on the phone because I didn't come home. I can only imagine what kind of pain that would be like. So we finally rebuilt, and there was a lot of hurt there for a while, I'm sure. But actually it's really interesting because after that, I don't know the next time I went to go see him. I do know that I went up there to help him move out of his apartment. And I'll never forget this. My dad got overwhelmed very easily, and when there was emotion present, it just kind of like put him into a panic attack almost. And he needed help getting out, just like physically. He needed help like packing. And something about us is all those moves that we had, we never unpacked. Like, I never had a living room. We didn't eat in the kitchen. I ate my dinner in my room. Sometimes I ate it with him in his room. But like, sometimes we ate at the pool hall. But we didn't have like a normal eat at the dinner table kind of thing. Sometimes we did if there wasn't like boxes or piles of paper or just like crap on the table. Maybe we ate, but that was very rare. But anyways, so I went up there to go help him move out, and I was probably 18 or 19, and I had gotten involved with the House of Prayer in Jacksonville. Talk about that another time. And so I had gotten connected with people that were a part of the House of Prayer in Burnsville, Minnesota. And how the House of Prayer really worked is that there was so many people that were interconnected. It's kind of like a VIP pass. So if I tell you like, hey, I was at IHOP KC, also we'll talk about that in another episode. But like, hey, I'm from IHOP KC. My dad is trying to move. This would be such a blessing to him. Could y'all come help us get these things out and just throw them away and help him move out? Because he's older and he just can't do all of this, and I can't do all this by myself. Would you please help? And they did. These 5 guys came. It was such a blessing. Like, to see the body of Christ come together like this. And anyways, so they came and they helped get all of the boxes out. And then while they were helping him move, they did get to pray for him, which was so sweet. I still have the picture. And I'm so thankful for that moment, because I don't know that my dad ever really believed in God or specifically in Jesus, but to have strangers come and help an old man like him who wasn't able to do anything for them, but to just do it out of the kindness of their heart was so beautiful. And I know that it touched him. It touched him for years on end, for the rest of his life, really. And so, anyways, I went down to the office and had negotiated with them at 18. I was negotiating with them because they were going to charge him like an extra $1,000 for the condition of the apartment after we moved out, because it wasn't taken care of properly, and they waived it based on my communication. They told me that. They're like, you are so mature and you are so moving, and the way that you care about your dad is so evident. And so they waived it, and it was so beautiful. And so anyways, so I was bringing that up because I think that was the next time that I went to see him. So I can't even believe that it took me that long to go back and see him, which is terrible. It's so sad. But I don't remember a lot in my life, and that's really hard for me, because I wish I did. So even as a teenager and young adult, I don't recall much. Okay, so we're almost there. If you've stuck with me this far, thank you. I am so honored. Okay, so I graduated high school in Florida, lived with my mom, like I said. I had plans to actually be my older sister's nanny and go with them to Hawaii. While we did YWAM, I was going to take care of the kiddos while they did the training, and it was so exciting, and we had all these prophetic visions to confirm it, and we didn't go. And then I ended up going to IHOP KC, which was a blessing, but also not great at the same time. If you don't follow any of that information, IHOP KC was an international missions base where they taught prayer and fasting and praise and worship, and it was 24/7 for like 25 years, ongoing night and day worship for God, based on Revelation 4, I believe. Just that there's ever continuing praise and worship around the throne because he's worthy. And so it taught me so much. It gave me such a foundation to my relationship with God. It taught me steadfastness. It taught me who God is as a father, and just that there is a real God out there that really wants a relationship with us, and he's very passionate about getting to know us. I'll leave it at that, because I'm still detangling some things from my my other parts of my story that have to do with religious abuse. It just keeps unfolding, people. Okay, so let me pause for our sponsor. Just kidding, there's no sponsors here. Okay, so I got married. I met my ex-husband through mutual friends. We got pregnant a year later. I just jumped right into that. I didn't even give you a lead up to it. We're going to try to get through that because that's going to probably take a few episodes to get through. But yeah, we got pregnant a year to the date, I believe, that we got married. I think it was Father's Day that we found out, actually. How funny. Anywho, I was terrified. I wanted babies, but I was terrified because another thing, I had open heart surgery when I was 6 months old. And, my cardiologist was like, you probably are not fit to have kids because you'll probably end up having like some kind of like heart malfunction and you could die. So here you go. So I got pregnant and was super sick, threw up every morning for like 16 weeks, maybe 18. I don't remember, but it was a long time. I remember specifically waking up every morning, having like a Nutri-Grain bar and then throwing that up and then actually having my second breakfast that I could keep down. So that was a doozy. But I actually remember having this very carnal, fearful moment where I asked God, because I wasn't going to abort my baby. I wouldn't do that because I'm a Christian. But to be honest with you, like, I definitely had the thought and the prayer of like, God, can you just make my body pass the baby? And I felt so much shame over that. But what happened next was even worse. I started bleeding and like a lot. So I really thought I was miscarrying. I got checked out, and what happened was I had a subchorionic hematoma. And I really honestly couldn't tell you the definition of it. So maybe if I can get really good at editing, I can put the definition right here. And yeah, so that happened. So I bled up until I think I had birth with her. Now here's the other thing. We were planning on a home birth because I became very radicalized in natural health, natural everything. Basically trying to be in alignment with what God's original design was for humanity. I know that's a whole thing. So I wanted a natural birth. I wanted a home birth, and I did not get that because my water broke at 24 weeks. I had a placental abruption. Was able to keep her in for another 12 days, 11 days, 15 days. I can't remember, but I ended up having her. Yeah, it must have been 15 days. I had her at 26 weeks. Tried for a vaginal delivery, didn't work. Had to go for a C-section. She was 1 pound, 14 ounces. Wow, what an experience. I will also be sharing my birth experiences. Don't worry. You have so many things to learn about me. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, let's fast forward to all the babies because I have 5. Okay, so 1 baby, premature, born at 26 weeks. She was in the NICU for 3 months. Man, so much. Okay, then I had my son Luke. I was pregnant with him. Man, there's so much that happened between Luke and Evelyn too with my own health, but again, just more to come. So Luke was fine up until 37 weeks. Actually, and also let me just add, I had to wear a pessary because I wasn't going to do one of those stitches. Is that a cerclage? Yeah, I didn't want to do a stitch, so I did a vaginal pessary, which is what they do up in Europe. And I think Europe is a little bit more advanced than we are here. So I did a pessary. It's like a donut you stick up, and it supports the cervix. So here's your cervix, and then you have this very stiff, firm thing. It goes right underneath your cervix. It's called a pessary. And so we did that to hopefully prevent any premature abruption again. So then 37 week ultrasound just to make sure everything's okay. And wouldn't you know it, they came across what was supposedly called hydrops. Didn't know what that was. There was no early onset indication that he was having hydrops, but what it is when there are 2 or more fluid-filled sacs in the body. And he had one in his lung, I believe it was his right lung, and then one around the heart. And there was possibly one in his abdomen. I just don't remember at the time, or currently. So yeah, so that happened. And then, so they said, that was at 36 weeks and 5 days. They were like, we're going to have to induce you because usually hydropic babies are stillborn. We want to prevent the stillborn, so let's go ahead and induce you. I was like, absolutely, yes, let's save my baby. So again, didn't get another natural birth. Had the induction. I felt the pressure though. That was cool. I didn't get to experience that in the first one, or maybe I did, but it wasn't very significant. It didn't last for very long. So had him, and then he was in the NICU for 3 weeks. Different time frame, but no matter what, when you have a baby and then you don't have them with you, it is one of the most jarring, perplexing, maddening, sad times ever, because you just want to be with your baby. You were with them and now they're not there. It's not right. But I'm thankful for medical intervention for saving both of them. Next, I had Ryan. By the way, my first one, her name is Evelyn. She's 10. Then I had Luke. He's now 8. And then I had Ryan, my first and only home birth. The most amazing. My midwife missed it. My doula, Emily, was there. She caught him. It was truly, truly quite blissful. I loved every minute of my birth with Ryan. And then I had Hope. Yeah, and in between these births, we had moved several times as well. So I was in Kansas City when I had Evelyn. I was in Colorado Springs when I had my boys. And then I just moved to Michigan in 2020. Would you believe it? Lucky me. To have my daughter Hope. And that was a bitch. I'm just going to say it like it was. The birth was a bitch, and being in Michigan in 2020, having a baby was a bitch. It just was. I am a Christian, but I cuss. So you'll just have to love it or like it or leave it, whatever you want. Anyways, so that was the whole thing. It was like a 30+ hour birth, unmedicated, might I add. I did have a doula. She was okay. She wasn't my favorite, but she was okay. She did her thing. She helped me a little bit. My ex-husband was extremely narcissistic and such a egotistical Nimrod. Because he made the birth about him, as they do. Anyways, continue on. Then my 5th, this is where it gets really interesting. Grab your popcorn. So I had been married for all those years. It's going on year 7. We were in Michigan during COVID. Long story short that I will devote another couple of episodes to. My husband at the time, very sadly, tragically, devastatingly, went so downhill with his mental health. He had been diagnosed with schizophrenia when he was a teenager. He was keeping it under control with medication, and then through the natural health endeavors, it was controlled with supplements and such. There was no signs that I could understand at the time that would lead me to believe that he was unstable or showing new symptoms of schizophrenia. But he did end up having more schizophrenic, manic, bipolar type episodes. He was hospitalized 6 times in about a 4-month period. He was in denial that there was anything wrong with his behaviors. He wouldn't sleep for days on end. He quit all of his jobs because God told him to. He was having angelic visions. which I challenged him on, that they needed to line up with the word. He wouldn't get any help. He, again, didn't think anything he was doing was wrong. I asked him point blank, like, at this point, because we're living off of my mom, my dad, his mom, the government, and his wages from making pizza deliveries. And I said, do you not feel responsible to provide for your family? And he looked me square in the eye and he said, no, it's not my responsibility. It's God's. And you might not think that that's a bad answer, but I can tell you, when it is more important to somebody to feed other people outside of your home before you eat, there is something wrong with that, okay? It actually says in Timothy, wish I had my Bible with me. I'll put it somewhere. I really want to put this verse up because it spoke so loudly to me that it says that if someone cares about other people, this is the layman's terms, if someone cares about other people and is serving other people outside of their home before they're serving their own family, they are worse than an unbeliever. That's what it says. I believe it's 1 Timothy 5:2. Don't quote me on that. But anyways, that felt like a gut punch to have the man that was betrothed to me to take care of me and our children to tell me that it wasn't his job to make sure that we are fed and clothed and housed. I mean, that there's something wrong with that. And I understand the spiritual aspect of, in the Beatitudes, how it talks about, God clothes the birds and he provides for the birds and clothes the lilies of the field. Yeah, absolutely. Our trust should be in God. But God mandated the shepherd. God mandates the father and the husband and the head of the home to do those things. And so when a man walks away from that mantle and says that it's not his mantle, he is walking in disagreement and disobedience with God. Okay? So through a few really, really beautiful and appropriate, honestly, like angels of God, through some women that I met in Michigan, they came around me and they were like, this is not normal and this isn't okay and this isn't safe for your children or you. You need to leave. Okay? And so it had never occurred to me that I was in an abusive marriage. He was never physically abusive, but everything else he was. Financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. There's a few others. I can't remember what the actual titles are, but there's, I think, 7 different types of abuse, or maybe it's 9, and he was all 8. So, nonetheless, we went through a lot. So I left with the intention of reconciling, but that never happened. He just became belligerent and mean and name calling and gaslighting me. I don't know what his game plan was, because threatening me that other women are looking at him and he's considering taking off his wedding ring because he can tell that other women are looking at him. Yeah, that really makes me want you back, baby. Okay. Anyways, I digress. I left him in Michigan with our 4 children, and I was pregnant with my 5th. I was 6 weeks pregnant. So I got to Florida. I had no intentions of staying in Florida. In my mind, I was going back to Kansas City. But yeah, so I had my baby in December of 2021 by myself. Although my sister Kelly did make a very sweet, intentional time to be with me for a couple hours. And she even rubbed my feet, which she does not like to rub feet. So Anyway, I had my baby. It was another 30+ hour labor. It was intense. I was 42 weeks pregnant with her. Oh my gosh. You would think for my 5th that I would have had a shorter term pregnancy, but I did not. Anyway, so lot happened. Can you tell? Can you tell? So yeah, then I went through a period of healing, all that stuff, you know, just from the initial, it's called abuse fog. It's where you're kind of like coming out of it and like seeing it for what it really is. And you're like, oh my gosh, what the hell? And you're kind of like rewriting your history. You're like looking back and you're like, oh, that actually wasn't that. Okay. So, yeah, there was a lot there. And then I was realizing that the appropriate and necessary boundaries that I was putting up for him to reconcile with us and us with him, he didn't care. He wasn't trying. And so I couldn't legally file a divorce in Florida because I had to be a resident for 6 months consecutive. Well, guess who beat me to the punch? He did. Illegally, but he did it anyways. Long story short, we went through our divorce. It was such a joke. He made his case very clear that he was crazy and that custody was appropriately given to me. Anyways, I'm going to keep the custody and everything really low key right now because we are going through another custody hearing soon. Pray for me on that. Pray for the children. And that God's leadership would be present. I know it will be, but it's a lot. Anyways, so moving forward. So I went through a lot, started dating, started learning who I was, started having a really great time, just kind of unwinding and shedding and blossoming and growing. Really, really fast forward, I met my current husband. His name is Matthew. We got married in 2023. We met in 2022. We just bought our first house together like last month. And we have visions for our house to be just a little cute farm land with some chickens and get me a horse. We're going to maybe get a milk cow. We're going to get some ducks, some sheep, and we have 6 acres and we just have a lot of plans for this place. So, what questions do you have for me? I've learned so much in my motherhood. I've learned so much in my wifehood. Like I said, I'm learning so much because I just didn't have a grid for any of this coming up how I did. And so I just am learning and I want to just share it. I just want to be honest. I want to have conversations that are deep and impactful and meaningful and provide aid and encouragement. And if anything, I can offer you my prayer. I want to offer you my partnership with you. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. That's crazy. It was 43 minutes long, guys. I really, really hope that this is the start of something that makes a difference and that I can, like I said, use my pain and my experiences to really benefit and help others, and give you hope. That is my prayer, that you feel hope no matter what painful situation you're in, that you know that you can take your pain and you can move into power, that you can take your hopelessness and turn it into strength and vibrancy again, that there's just so much waiting for you. You just have to get through, right? So I want to provide you that encouragement, that cheerleader, big sister, you can do it kind of energy, because I think that we need more of that in our lives. We need more big sister energy. We need more, like, I know it's so freaking hard. It's just like birth. Like, I want to be like your life doula. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's so hard. You have just a little bit left to go. You're so close, and then you're going to get to hold your baby, and that pain is going to be gone. And your baby in this situation, it might be that you are coming out of a terrible toxic relationship like I was, and you're learning who you are again. It might be that you're coming out of years of depression and you're figuring out what you're going to do in life. It might be that you lost a job that your identity was very much wrapped into, and again, you have to sort of go inward to come out. And so I just want to bless your journey wherever you're at. I want to encourage you and speak life into you, and I'm just excited. So I hope that you enjoyed this. Leave a comment, like, subscribe, share this with your friends. This is so healing for me, so I appreciate you hearing my story and allowing me to be vulnerable. And I guess this is it, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye.